What is up, book nerds? We are doing an NFL to Premier League matchmaking. I know you NFL fans out there would love to root for another team, especially if your NFL team did you wrong this season. Let's hop into this. We are starting off with the Houston Texans, and if you're a Texans fan, I recommend rooting for Arsenal. Like the Texans, they are the new cool kids on the block, an up-and-coming championship contender that is ready to take the crown. After years in the Slammers, both these teams are now up-and-coming, and the other teams are scared. Now, if you're a Lions fan, I recommend rooting for Aston Villa. This is another feel-good team. These are teams nobody expected much out of, had years of turmoil, but now are on the top. These teams are both now top of their league and overcoming a history of failure. It does help that both of them have lions for mascots. Now, if you're a Packers fan, I recommend rooting for AFC Bournemouth. Both of these teams have a community atmosphere in smaller markets. Now, for the New York Giants, I would recommend rooting for Brentford, as I have. Many of you know I'm a Giants fan. And Brentford is my Manchester team. Both of these teams are the forgotten team of their large market. New York and London are the biggest markets in their respective countries, and both of these teams are forgotten in those markets. New York is, it feels weird to say, but it is kind of the forgotten team of New York as of late. The Buffalo Bills have consistently been fighting for that championship. The Jets made those big moves to get Aaron Rodgers. And the Giants, we got Daniel Jones. And Brentford is the same. Even people in the UK forget that it's in London. Plus, that B looks so cool. Now, for the Miami Dolphins, I recommend Brighton and Hove. Both of these teams play in the southernmost parts. Granted, I wouldn't really call any part of England southern, but it's the closest they got to our wonderful Miami. And both of them have some of the most interesting head coaches in their respective leagues. Now, for Dallas Cowboys fans, I recommend rooting for Chelsea. Both of these teams are kind of irrelevant. They were really good, like in your grandpa's day, but nowadays they are overrated as sin, yet they still get all the media coverage. Now, for the Tennessee Titans, I recommend Crystal Palace to root for, because both of these teams are the definition of just being there. They're just there. I mean, Tom Grossi's entire joke for the AFC South saga was that Tennessee just existed. Now, if you're a Jets fan, I would recommend rooting for Everton. Both of these teams constantly get in their own way to the point of being cursed. The Jets have repeatedly gone their own way for years at this point, for decades, half a century, up to and including this year. And Everton is the same. Not exactly, but more or less. Now, if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I recommend rooting for Fulham. Both teams owned by Shad Khan, which is not the only reason. Both of these teams have a tight community. Fulham had a lot of this before Shad Khan came in, but it still exists now that Shad Khan's there. And Jacksonville is very similar. Jacksonville is a small market, not as small as Green Bay, but it does have a tight community, especially now that the Jags are kind of good. Now, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you fans, you should root for Leeds United FC. This would have been perfect if Sheesfield didn't get demoted, but we'll go with Leeds because both of them are blue-collar cities with passionate fan bases. And both of them are underdogs going into the season because Leeds is back in the Premier League, which it wasn't last year, and the Steelers are the worst team on paper in the AFC North. Now, for the Kansas City Chiefs, I would recommend rooting for Leicester City. This is a bit of a stretch because the Kansas City Chiefs are two-time Super Bowl ring champions. Well, they actually won 3 times, but they're 2 in a row right now. And Leicester City is consistently one of the worst teams in the Premier League. They're now back in the Premier League after being in the Championship League, which is below the Premier League. And they continually bounce back between the two. But both of these teams are very exciting to see. Like it or not, Kansas City Chiefs football is exciting. Same case for Leicester City. And both of them have very passionate fan bases. Now, for 49ers fans, I recommend rooting for Liverpool. Both of these teams have one of the best head coaches in their respective leagues and play the most exciting football. The San Francisco 49ers, I'd say, are the best team watchability-wise in the league. I will be doing a watchability tier list, so look forward to that. But enough of me plugging. Both of these teams are just the most exciting team in their respective league, even if they're not the best. Now, for LA Rams fans, I'd recommend rooting for Manchester City. Both of these teams are teams that bought their championships, the LA Rams, back in 2022, and Manchester City won it this last season. Both of these teams are cool teams in their league. Now we have Manchester United for the New England Patriots fans. Both of these teams were dynasties until they lost their cornerstone. Now they're suffering a bit. New England Patriots suffered a little bit more than Man United. But yeah, both of these teams were the tour de force for their league many years ago. Now for the New Orleans Saints, I'd recommend rooting for Newcastle United. Both of these teams are in areas that have interesting character per se. New Orleans is definitely interesting place, and so is Newcastle. And both of them have given us quite a few legends in their respective sports. For Bears fans, I'd recommend rooting for Nottingham Forest. Both of these teams have had quite a lot of success in the past, but have struggled as of recent, but have a lot of hope for the future. These two teams could be very good if they could just put it all together. For Minnesota Vikings fans, I would recommend rooting for Southampton FC. Both of these teams are kind of stuck in the mushy middle and could be at the bottom because Southampton is back in the Premier League after a time in the EFL. While the Vikings lost Kirk Cousins and have JJ McCarthy, and there's big question marks there. And both of them have passionate fan bases and are deeply embedded in their communities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Southampton, respectively. For Buffalo Bills fans, I'd recommend rooting for Tottenham Hotspur. Both of these teams are the bridesmaids of their league. They get so close to championships, but they just can't finish the job. Buffalo Bills went to 4 Super Bowls in the 80s, lost all of them. Tottenham Hotspur has been good,
just not good enough to get over the hump. Same thing with the Bills. They just can't beat the Chiefs. Now, for Eagles fans, I'd recommend rooting for West Ham United. Both of these teams have insane fans, lunatics roaming the streets. So, yeah, Eagles fans, root for West Ham United. Now, for Seahawks fans, I'd recommend rooting for the Wolverhampton Wanderers. Both of these teams are in the mushy middle of the league. Pete Carroll got fired/retired because they were too stuck in the middle. Both of these teams they are kind of like the Titans, but have more passionate fan bases and at least do something.
Okay, in summary, I didn't get to all the NFL teams because there's only 20 Premier League teams, so 12 NFL teams wound up on the chopping block. Something else to note with the Premier League is 3 teams change out every year. 3 teams will get demoted for 3 new teams to be promoted. This is a different video, so I hope you liked it. Please hit the like button, subscribe button, and bell notification to be notified when I upload next. It helps me out a lot. If you stayed this long, I'm so thankful. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.